So, I'm not going to discuss the future as in the future of the game balance-wise, more on what future content is going to be added to the game. Specifically, I believe I know the next 3 chapters in our January Survivor. If you're as involved in the DBD lore as I am, some of these make sense and some might not, so I'll have to explain myself for each one. But I hope you all listen to my outlandish theory. Firstly, why do I feel like I know the next 9 months of DBD content? Simple. I predicted the Twisted Masquerade would be coming back, but that was a given since the devs gave a roadmap for Hattie Cosmetics and her Twisted Masquerade outfit was there, signifying that the event was coming back. So, what's a more clear way to get you to believe me? Simple. I knew Haunted by Daylight would be returning before anyone else. I didn't really see many people talking about what the Halloween event was going to be, but I was one of the only people suggesting Haunted by Daylight would be making a return, and I was right. So, does this mean I'm right? No, not at all. These are speculations and guesses, but the next 9 months are all original chapters, and I don't think people will be happy about that. Our big license won't happen until the November to December chapter in 2024. Why am I insisting that the next 9 months are original content? Let's look back at the latter half of 2023. June was original with End Transmission. July saw our first license of the year with Nick Cage. August was the second license with Alien, and November was our third license with Child's Play. Mathieu Cote has expressed on numerous occasions that they try to aim for each year to have at least 50% original content being added to the game. Going by this logic, the January Survivor and the March chapter must be original, and I have evidence to back up January Survivor paragraph being original. During the live stream right before Chucky's release, Eric and Justin talked about the upcoming Bone Chill event. They made a big note on how many iridescent shards players would be earning, exactly 9,000 shards to be precise. Justin said the 6,000 shards were a means to be a gift to the players for 60 million players, but he also stated that the extra 3,000 shards are a New Year's gift.
Now, what's really cool here is because, yes, we have that promo code for reaching that amazing milestone of 60 million players. In addition to that, this login calendar is going to give players 3,000 iridescent shards and another million blood points.
Okay, so that tallies quite high.
It does tally quite high. So the iridescent shards are what I really want to focus on because the total there is going to be 9,000. And that's enough iridescent shards to buy a full original character in the DBD store.
Wow.
So if you stay tuned with us, enter the promo code, log in on the days when we're giving out iridescent shards, you might have a nice New Year's gift for you at the end of this.
It's pretty nice, Justin. Yeah. Thanks. They're very generous of you and the team.
I think it's pretty cool. 60 million is a huge milestone. Yeah, we're happy to give the players something back.
This leads me to believe January Survivor is original. But who could that person be? Well, I have 4 guesses, and some of them outweigh others for specific reasons. Let's start with the least likely person to be our January Survivor, but still a possibility, and we'll go up based on how likely they are. Saku Nakano, or the Red Crane. She's been an important character in the tomes for about a year and a half now, maybe close to 2 years. Recently, the devs just completely abandoned her story and started giving us the story Tales from the Horror Through the Void Darkly. In this story, we follow Mahan Singh and the group of people who know the survivors we currently have through the Void as they try to find the City of Columns at the heart of the Void. Mahan explicitly recounts that the Void was worse than what he read from the scroll he found on a dead samurai. Now, this is strange. Saku Nakano was an important character for many years, and this one simple line acts as if she just died. So the conclusion to Saku's story is that she's dead, but that wouldn't make sense. She's been an active character in every single tome since Tome 11 and up until Tome 17, so it irks me from a narrative standpoint to just kill her off, which is why I don't think they did, and this is just something we've seen before, a different version of Saku being dead, not the Saku we've been following. One of the first stories Saku was a part of, she found Kazan, Leone, in the forest, and he was carrying a sack full of Saku's severed heads. So this sudden cut makes me believe she would be joining in, but I think she isn't. Not yet, at least. Next likely person to be added. A completely new original character that's a part of the LGBT+ community. The devs haven't mentioned any new perk types like Michaela, and a standalone original survivor isn't going to sell well unless there's a big reason to do so. If this survivor is a part of the LGBT plus community, that would increase sales and add another character that's been long overdue since David back in 2022. Alright, going to be honest, I do not have many cases to support this point, and that may be frustrating, but it's for good reason. The need to sell the character is good enough to possibly get them to add a new LGBT plus member. Does that mean it will be handled as well as David? That remains to be seen. It's just speculation after all, so literally any of this could be wrong. Next, we have Mahan Singh. The Through the Void Darkly stories are taking place from his perspective, and since the new model for tomes shows lore based on the new original characters getting taken, maybe they'll conclude these stories with Mahan being added. The City of Columns is supposed to have a way out, but my guess is that this quote-unquote way out is actually a ploy to get someone into the trial grounds. For example, Talbot Grimes, the Blight, way back in Tome 5 we see him grabbing a pustula flower and falling to what should be his demise, but he doesn't, and wakes up in a strange place that seems to be below the void. This whole area is filled with columns and strange people surrounding him. Then he fully transforms into the Blight and is released into the trial grounds. This area of columns, I believe, is the city these survivors are looking for. It's possible Mahan comes across a monster in the void and sacrifices himself to split off from the group to save all of them. He loses this monster but is lost and doesn't know how to get back. Since he has a scroll detailing how to get to the city, he has to follow it, and this is where he finally gets taken into the trial grounds when he stumbles across the city. Lastly, who I believe is most likely coming in as our January survivor, the Observer. Tome 17 switched up the formula from what it usually is. The stories had to be unlocked killer or survivor first, then the other, then ending on the Observer logs or House of Arkham story. Not this time. Tome 17 follows the Observer, accounting a strange character from Bara, we'll get back to him in a moment, named the Prisoner. This prisoner is eerily similar to the Observer in everything, and the prisoner goes to the void trying to find a way out. Some stories the Observer finds is that the story is to get this prisoner out of hiding to jump straight into the fire. The Observer understands that the prisoner doesn't have a concise ending to the story. He doesn't know if the void will be his way out because no one has written what the prisoner finds. But the Observer comes to learn this prisoner is himself, for the simple fact of there is no such thing as fiction. Everything is based on some reality somewhere. This causes him to go out and send himself into the trial grounds. He climbs up the Macmillan water tower, and with his trusty 9-iron, he etches symbols into the cocoon atop the water tower from the Haunted by Daylight event. He bursts the cocoon open and winds up in the void, where he's attacked by haunts. This story is exactly what we see in the game. The cocoon is still on that water tower too, despite the Haunted by Daylight event being over, and 2 months and many patches have gone by. Plus, the Through the Void Darkly story sees Jaden, Haley, and Mahan peering outside the window and finding something surprising. I believe this to be the Observer being attacked by haunts, in which the group will go over and end up saving him. This is why I think the Observer is our January survivor. Too many details point straight to him, and it would make sense for him to be a standalone character because he is such an important story character. There's no direct killer for him either, and he would sell a lot because it's the Observer being added as a playable character for everyone with some of the most unique lore outside of a select few characters. He's my frontrunner for January Survivor and would explain why the devs say that they could get him for free with shards. He's such an important character coming in, and I think the devs want everyone to have him because of that. Now we come to the March chapter, which I believe is one of 2 potential things. Let's discuss my more out there theory. The March chapter will be a chapter dedicated to the casting of Frank Stone. Like I said, this one is out there, but with how the reveal trailer looked, I figure we're not all too far out from the game's release. I'm speculating we'll receive another trailer sometime in January, revealing the release date in February. This will then have a PTB revealed showing us the new chapter for the casting of Frank Stone. Is that one possible? Yes, but not what I fully believe. I do find it a bit strange that DVD might not have a casting of Frank Stone chapter in the works when the game is literally built around DVD itself. It just makes sense to capitalize off of the new game's hype when a chapter in-game It just makes sense to capitalize off the new game's hype with a chapter in-game with the characters. This next one is what I believe will be coming to the game. Alex Demaro and Cliff Barra. Yes, that Barra from earlier. Barra was mentioned in a story way back in Tome 10, Deja Vuism, and hasn't been mentioned since. So, why did the devs decide to mention a Barra in Tome 17 when the first time Barra was ever mentioned was a one-off character? So bringing him back is very interesting. Does this signify Alex and Cliff coming to March? No idea, but them randomly bringing Barra back makes me feel like the devs have more plans for the two of them. Next, June's chapter. This is the one where I've isolated 100% our killer is Jezebel, the Mad Designer. We've seen some of her design back in June with the Twisted Masquerade event where she was holding up Serena's mask in the loading screen. This is following the events of it taking 3 years of the Hallowed Blade event, and on the third year, the third event, the Blight came into the game. So by this logic, following this pattern, Jezebel will be coming into the game as our hostess for the Twisted Masquerade. In Tome 11, the Observer cutscene shows the Observer stumbling up some stairs in drunken stupor, and he opens the door to a bunch of fog creatures with a banner saying, "Happy Birthday, Sweet Darkness." The only person to label the entity as Sweet Darkness is Jezebel, so she'll be our killer for June. Now, the Survivor. 2 options, both work. I'll start with the Observer. He could be our Survivor because he was last shown interacting with something Jezebel created before vanishing, but we now know he willingly went into the Void, causing the unstable rifts to appear and sever the link between the Trial Grounds and Void because of his actions with the Cocoon. But he's still linked to Jezebel, who was giving the Observer gifts before he vanished without a trace. The more likely case, Saku Nakano. The Red Crane will be added as our survivor because I don't believe behavior will kill her off so suddenly after she's been a prominent character in the tomes for nearly 2 years. She's in the same boat as Hattie was, except Hattie took much less time to come into the game than Saku. It just makes sense to bring in Saku with Jezebel, but only if the Observer isn't the January survivor. Now, this is all speculation, so it could very well be wrong. The August or September chapter is a hard one to figure out as it's such a long way away, but following the pattern, we notice Haunted by Daylight has happened 2 years in a row now, meaning the chapter is relating to the event. The killer is one of 3 things in my mind. Least likely, the humanoid spider killer we saw in Tome 10. The biggest cause for this was the broken cocoon on the water tower. These next 2 are a toss-up, and I'm not sure which we could see come into the game as both work. I'll do the one that's probable, but not something I want to happen. After everything the Observer has been put through, I want him to end up being a survivor. I'd much rather him be a survivor than a killer, as he suits the survivor archetype more than the killer one. But I could see behavior turning the Observer into a killer based on the Tome 17 cutscene, with him being attacked by haunts in the Void. Narratively, his story is going to end up with him being a playable character in the Trial Grounds, just like Blight. I just can't figure out where behavior is going with his story. He genuinely can fit both the survivor and killer roles, much like the Observer. I guess I don't know where his story ends until we finally have confirmation on what happened to him. This confirmation won't happen until at the latest October of 2024, since he's such an important part in the Haunted by Daylight event. The killer for this chapter, I believe it will be the 3 Watchers. We've seen with Resident Evil, Fortune of Fog, and Tools of Torment that Behavior aren't afraid of adding a lot of unique models. Resident Evil brought Jill, Leon, Nemesis, and 2 zombies, and while Capcom gave them the models they use, they still had to conform the models to DVD's engine. Tools of Torment brought Talita, Renato, and Skull Merchant, 3 unique characters with their own perks, but Fortune of Fog is my biggest reasoning for all this. Will Behavior add 3 Watchers for one singular killer? Well, yes. A night release with 3 unique guards, Carnifex, Assassin, and Jailer, and they all have a unique voice and model, meaning Behavior isn't afraid to do something like this, and since the 3 Watchers are the catalyst for the Haunted by Daylight event even being a thing in the first place, with them putting the esoteric machinery on the hooks and gens to collect void energy, it's safe to say they're probably being added. Now, the Survivor? Who knows? If the Observer is not the survivor for January or June, and not the killer for August, he'll be the survivor here. If he is the survivor for anything mentioned previously, this is going to be a completely new character unless they bring in Max Holt or Mahan Singh. You might be questioning, in a year of very important lore characters clearly potentially being added, where are the Pariahs? I have no idea. Elodie was the last Pariah 3 years ago, and we haven't gotten a tome story for Felix or Elodie since, so we don't even know who the other 3 Pariahs are. The possibility behavior adds the remaining 3 could be the March chapter, Rip the Band-Aid Off, another 2 Survivor, Killer chapter, all 3 being Pariahs, completing our collection of the group of outcasts, and we get Dire Island as a map in the game. Behaviors show they aren't afraid of making an original 3-character chapter. Tools of Torment brought that, so they could do it again. It's just confusing, as 3 years with no news of these characters. We know they exist, but where are they? This isn't a situation like Julian from Michaela's story being taken by the Entity. We have 3 important characters completely unaccounted for anywhere in the game's story. This is where another possible idea comes in. We know the PvE game developed by Midwinter will take place inside the fog, where you battle the creatures of the fog. This makes me think of one possible group, the Imperiati being the main protagonists of this game. Upon further research, the devs of Midwinter explain the theme of the game will center around greed and a lust for power, so on second thought, the Imperiati doesn't seem like the right cast for the game, along with other possible groups I was thinking of. I believe this will be more about a new cast of characters fighting to find power within the Entity. And that brings us to the end of this video. A quick recap of everything that was just discussed. I believe the January Survivor is one of 4 possibilities, and this is the order of least to most likely of them being the Survivor. Saku Nakano, a new original LGBT+ character, Mahan Singh, and the Observer. March's chapter can realistically be a lot of things, but what I believe it is one of 3 possible scenarios. Again, least to most likely. The remainder of the Pariahs, the casting of Frank Stone, and lastly, Alex Demero as our survivor with Cliff Barra as our killer. June's chapter is much simpler. Jezebel, the Mad Designer, is our killer with either Saku Nakano or the Observer as our survivor. August or September's chapter will be a bit harder to pin. Again, least to most likely, this time for killers. Humanoid Spider, the Observer, the 3 Watchers, with the survivor being either the Observer or a completely new character. If you listen to me ramble on about this whole thing, I thank you. That means a lot to me. I love this game and the world, and I hope everyone is excited for what the devs have next. I know the game can get frustrating at times, but I still love this game with all my heart, and I will be with it for a long time to come. 2024 seems like it's going to be a very exciting year for all of us who love DBD's story, and I hope to everyone playing, if these come true, it shows the devs actually really care about the story of their world and characters, something a lot of people don't think the devs cared about. Seeing what the devs are teasing actually makes me really happy. I've been following this game since June 18th of 2016, and I've seen this game go through so much. If you told past me that there was a single-player game made by Supermassive Games, a comic book, a PvE game being developed, a movie in the works with Blumhouse and Atomic Monster, the Observer being added, the Mad Designer being added along with Saku, I don't think I would believe you, and I think that's a testament to how far Dead by Daylight has come. We all love this game. We all want to see it continue thriving, and we should continue loving this game, despite its flaws and issues. Once again, if you've listened to this whole video, I want to thank you. It means a lot to me. Now we just need to see what of these predictions comes true, if any even do. I hope you all have a lovely day. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.